Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrea Villani, and I'm pleased to welcome you to this webinar on the future of well-being in Asia. So I'd like to start by introducing our experts. We have Nathania Christy, who's head of Global Insight Network at TrendWatch. Hi, Nathania.
Hello.
We also have Prasad Shinde, who's a director at Ipsos in Singapore.
Hello.
So we hear about new wellness trends basically every day. And that's because consumers are focusing on their well-being across all sides of their life, from nutrition to sport, mental health, and also the environment that's around them. And this has implications really across industries. So what we're going to do today, Nathania will start by telling us about emerging consumer experiences which are addressing those two trends of mental health and air pollution, and also what your brands can do about it. Prasad will then expand on those two topics and put them in perspective, telling us how important they are for consumers in Asia and how the changes across markets. I'm then going to show you how you can leverage artificial intelligence to really take all this information back into your organization for fast speed to insights. And hopefully it's going to leave us with 20 minutes for Q&A and a discussion among the panelists. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the post. So I'm going to hand over to Nathania. Nathania, over to you.
Thank you, Andrea. So welcome to the Future of Wellbeing Deep Dive by TrendWatching. My name is Nathania Christy, and we're going to talk about two consumer trends that are very pressing when it comes to impacting consumers' well-being in Asia Pacific. But before we move on into the two trends, a little bit of information about TrendWatching, who we are and what we do to put the presentation into context. So we are a global consumer trends firm headquartered in London with offices all around the world. And what we do is to help consumers, to help businesses to make sense of trends and innovation and to know what your consumers will want next. And we do that by offering our clients workshops and keynotes on trends and innovations. And we also have an online intelligence platform with hundreds of trends and thousands of innovations in our database. And after doing this for many, many years, we let our secrets out and we created this book called Trend-Driven Innovation, where you can read more into our methodology of spotting, analyzing, and sharing consumer trends and innovations. And to put it simply, what does trends mean? Trends emerge as innovators address fundamental human needs in new and better ways. And we're going to see later on two trends when it comes to well-being that are impacting consumers' need for health and happiness. And a lot of the innovations that we're going to see will cover a lot of industry, a lot of markets. And if you're not based in that market, if you're not in that industry, you may think that this is relevant for you, but it's actually not, because your consumers, they live in an expectation economy. And when they see innovation from across markets, across industry, they will have that expectation for you to deliver similar services for them. So that's why it's important to cover and to see what our brands doing, even though they are from industries other than what you are in. And so let's jump into wellness. Wellness is a big business globally. The global wellness economy was a $4.2 trillion market in 2017, and it's growing nearly twice as fast as overall economic growth from 2015 to 2017. So it's a really big market. There's huge opportunity there, but for this report, we're not going to talk about wellness, but rather more into well-being, the more pressing threats for consumers in this modern age. And you might think that we're splitting hairs here. What's the big difference between wellness and well-being? But we're not going to cover Insta wellness, all wellness for the sake of status, the latest live stream spin class and all that, but rather we're going to look into pressing threats for consumers, and there are two that we're going to talk about today. And the first one is all around mental health, and the second one is on air pollution. And you're going to see later on why that is so important and what our brand's doing about it as well. So let's go into our first trend for today. We call this trend the burnout, and it's all around mental health and how Asian consumers are now feeling the pressure from having to perform, having to strive perfection at their workplace. They're looking for brands to help them do something about it. And why is it happening in Asia? Because we know that in Asia, we used to strive for economic well-being. We worked so hard, and now Hong Kong has the biggest billionaire population in the world. It has surpasses New York, and so we move on from poor countries to becoming this crazy rich Asians. But with that also comes a price. We become crazy stressed as well. And you see how Jack Ma made that comment about the 996 working culture, and he says that it's actually a blessing to work over time. So people are questioning, especially the young generations, they are questioning the working culture and why do they have to put up with the stress at work. And you can see from the stats here, 92% of Singaporeans, they are stressed from work, while 95% of Indian millennials report stress more than any other country surveyed. And there's also shifting awareness when it comes to health. When we think of our well-being, when we think of our health, we associate it more to mental health than actually to our physical condition or the state of being sick. So mental health is growing in awareness and importance among Asian consumers. And that's not all. There's so much more science and statistics to support how important mental health currently is for a lot of Asian consumers in China, in Singapore, and Hong Kong. People are stressed, people need an escape, and they're looking to brands to help. So what are innovators doing about it? We're going to see some examples, some innovations. And the first one, as we talk about 996, there's this two Chinese tech developers, and they created this open source software called the Anti-996 license. So if you're a coder and you're using GitHub, and you want to use this license, your company have to abide by the rules that you will compensate your workers if they work overtime. And in that Anti-996 license, he also put this blacklist of 9 companies that are exploiting consumers. And so it's a really smart move, and it's showing you that you can address this issue in creative ways, leveraging on the power of open source. Another example comes from Thailand. This is a rehab and wellness center called The Dawn, and this is Asia's first rehabilitation center that offers a 2-week retreat for burnout executives, and it's priced at $6,000 for just 2 weeks, and they offer you even treatments that is as deep as analyzing your brain cells to help you adjust and cope with depression. So it's showing you how serious and severe the problem can be. And there are other ways to tackle this problem as well. We can take a look at sleep, for example. Japan is the most sleep-deprived country in the world. So what are businesses doing about it? There's this company, they're a wedding organizer called Crazy Ink, based in Japan. And Crazy Ink basically rewards their employees who sleep 6 hours a night over 5 days. So the employees use an app to track their sleep. And then if you pass, you can get some points that you can redeem with food vouchers in the cafeteria. So companies are launching policies like this to support their employees. And if you look at Singapore, only a third of Singaporeans said they have a formal workplace wellness program, and 44% felt that these programs were not focused enough on mental well-being, because let's face it, in a lot of Asian countries, there's a stigma around mental health. And so there's this organization called the Breathe Movement. They thought, what is the best way to educate people and to facilitate conversation around mental health? Why not a film festival? Let people watch movies that will spur discussions around it. So this is also a creative way of organization tackling this issue through movies and then a series of panels. And so we see how brands are creatively tackling this issue, and this is a huge market. APAC's corporate wellness market will reach $7.4 billion by the end of 2024. So there's a big demand, a big opportunity for you to jump into the space. So what's your response? What can you do about it? You can go creative, and the first thing you can do is to facilitate conversation. How can you create experiences or tools that destigmatize mental health, like what the Breathe movement is doing in Singapore? Or take a look at your workplace. Is there any policy that you can change to help battle burnout? So workplace is a key setting for you to launch mental health innovation. Or how can you boost consumers' moments of care by embedding this well-being boosters? So a lot of examples around this. This is really key for you to innovate on when we're talking about the future of well-being. That's much more important than simply Insta wellness and all this things that's on the surface. So let's move on to our second trend for today, and we call this trend Happiness is in the Air. And this is all about tackling the issue on air pollution in Asia, because really, literally in Asia, happiness is in the air. It's impacting people's life and well-being, and even it can result to death when it's not properly tackled. So the World Health Organization says that 4.7 million deaths per year occur due to air pollution, and this is 2/3 of the world's total. So it's really, really severe in Asia. And it's becoming more and more visible for consumers as well. It's hitting headlines everywhere you go, every country in Asia. There's news about how air pollution is impacting schools, impacting tourism, impacting the citizens, and how government has to budget a lot of money to fight the issue. And not only it's becoming visible in the news, it's also becoming more visible for the consumers as well. There are new technology like this app in South Korea called Dust See that allows you to really see with your eyes the fine dust that's present in the surrounding environment. So consumers' awareness are growing, and at the same time, they're also feeling the pain, and their happiness and well-being is impacted by air pollution. If you see the news in Jakarta, there was the Asian Games, and the runners collapsed before they can even finish the race because of bad air quality. And so it's so severe. So brands are doing things about this, thankfully, but we need more innovations around this as well. So what are some of the ways that you can do to tackle air pollution and help your consumers boost their well-being when it comes to air quality? So the first example that we have comes from Samsung. It has this robotic bot that can actually sense with sensors that's placed around your home which area is the dirtiest, and then it can move there and clear the area there. So it's very innovative and very targeted as well. And when we talk about air pollution, a lot of companies will say, okay, let's just create masks for our consumers. But how can you go beyond and truly reimagine the solution, like this nasal filters that's created by a startup in India? So they reimagine mask, and they do this a very small filter that you can put into your nostril, and so it doesn't affect how you look, and it doesn't affect your daily activities because you just look like normal. No one can see that filter. And another example, if you're saying that, oh, this is only applicable for brands in healthcare or in FMCG, what can I do about it? I'm a retailer. This is an example from South Korea, and this is a mall. And this mall called Hanwha Galleria, it can change its external exterior, the lighting, depending on the air quality around it. So if the air quality is bad, it's going to show a red color. If the air quality is good, it's going to be green. So the point here is that if you have a message that is so important, that is so urgent, how can you be loud about it and be big about it and be creative to offer your solution in whichever industry that you are in? And in Singapore, we have this SBS Transit, this bus company. They actually partnered to have living roofs installed on top of the buses. And this is also a good example to really not just make the air quality better, but also to spread that message on how important it is to take care and green the environment, the city that we live in. As the bus go around the city, people can see it, and it's making a big statement about air quality. Here is a French company called Arpour, and they just created this nano mask, and it's a luxury high-end mask that costs $200 $200, and it has a replaceable filter in it as well, and it can change the lighting can change as well. And so if you contrast this to the Indian nasofilter example, you can go unique and try to reimagine the situation, or you can target a different segment of consumers and making it a high-end as well. And when we talk about air pollution, tobacco is another source of pollution as well, though not as big as the others, but still it kills about 1.2 million people who are not even smoking. So what are brands doing about it? We have this good example coming from Singapore, and this is the smoking cabin, where if you as a smoker, you come into the cabin, the air that you exhale from the smoke will be purified by the cabin and will be sent out into the environment, and it's actually cleaner than the air that is normally present in Singapore. So this is a great example of turning something that's negative into something that's positive and beneficial for the environment as well. So what's your response? What can you do about it? Get your light bulb moments going, and you can partner with governments, you can collaborate with NGOs, or you can contextualize your offering to play to your strength. If you're a retailer like the Hanwha Galleria in Korea, you can create a message that's urgent for your consumers to act and do something about the air pollution issue. Or you have to remember that air quality will be the new benchmark. It's now still a luxury for a lot of places in Asia, but when it becomes the new standard, where are you? Are you playing catch up, or are you leading the way? So that's all that I have for you today. We have two pressing trends, the burnout and the air pollution. So pick where you want to innovate and get going. So I wish you good luck in innovating around this space, and I'll hand it over back to Andrea.
Thank you very much, Nathania. It's very interesting. Actually, we have a few questions already coming in from the audience around how you find your trends and how you know that something is a trend. Let's keep those all for later. If anyone has questions, please feel free to type them in, and we are going to select a few questions at the end. For now, I'm going to hand over to Prasad.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrea. Hi, I'm Prasad. I work with Ipsos in Singapore, and today I'm here to continue on the same topic which we discussed, which is air pollution and mental health. We're trying to focus more on some of the key APAC markets, as you'll see along. A quick note on the source of the data. So Ipsos is a global organization. We have offices in over 90 countries around the world. We frequently conduct self-funded studies which are out freely available for anyone who's interested. So I'm tapping into 3 of these studies which we did over 2019 on what worries the world, their views on health, and also on environment and so on. So I'm focusing on a few key markets, but if anyone wants this detailed reports and look at all the 25-30 countries that we have covered globally, please drop me an email. My contact is at the end of this presentation, and I'll be happy to share this report for free. Okay, let's look at the first topic, air pollution, before we move on to health. Before I jump into the findings, maybe I'll quickly recap what do we see as the key things that are happening in this context. When we look at all the different environmental aspects, we see air pollution coming out as one of the key concerns globally, and that does show some strong skews by market, particularly South Korea in the APAC context. Now let's look at these numbers. So a lot of numbers over here. Let me explain how to look at this chart. So we ask people a simple question. So in your view, what are the most important environmental issues facing? And then we rank those different issues. This is based on a very large sample size of close to 20,000 surveys done globally. And if you look way up top, is global warming, climate change. It's always in the news, so no surprises over there. But right after that, number 2 is air pollution. So globally, across the 25 to 30 countries, it is one of the key environmental concerns. And then there are other concerns, but the numbers for that start dropping as you go down. So if you move along down the list, flooding, soil erosion, that's way towards the bottom. But on the top, it basically is global warming and air pollution. Now, when we look at these numbers, specifically by different markets, especially in the APAC markets, you see something quite interesting. Look at these numbers. These numbers are just about those countries who think air pollution is a serious environmental issue. And the numbers vary a lot. As high as 70% of South Koreans think air pollution is a concern. And as you move down the other markets, India, China, the numbers keep dropping. And we get 15% in Australia. Does it mean that in Australia people are not concerned about air pollution? I would say that there are other environmental issues they're more concerned about. So when we look at the findings in the Australian context, there will be other issues that we talk about. Just as a side note, we do have a free report just looking at Australia when it comes to environment and their perceptions. Again, if anyone wants that report on Australia, please let me know. So what we do see over here is South Korea does stand out by far as the market which is really concerned about air pollution. So what can brands or what can you as marketers do about it? So of course, there are many implications for air pollution. It has impact on health, but again, in the South Korean context, you do know it's a global leader when it comes to cosmetics, skincare, and so on. That does tend to be one area which is quite strongly impacted by these concerns for air pollution. So any brand, especially in the skincare category, if you offer some cleansing capabilities and all that, which kind of mitigates or cancels out the harms from air pollution, they're likely to do a lot better. And as an example, just look at the number of new cleansers that were launched in Korea. In a matter of 3 years, there were 4, the numbers just quadrupled. That's a huge increase. It also shows how much demand there is and how much people are concerned and they're open to trying out products in this context. Here's just one of the examples where I picked up a brand which seemed to be doing a lot better in this context, which specifically tries to address the impact on your skin from air pollution, and that seems to resonate a lot better with the Korean consumers. Now, it's not just skincare. I wanted to also talk about that this does impact any category, and it's up to you to creatively identify how can you link this environmental or this air pollution concern to your product category. I have a couple of examples here. I have an air purifier from a company called Winix, which is the largest air purifier brand in South Korea. We have face masks. Then we have different dust mask cleaners and all that. So many things and so many products now are trying to jump on this whole air pollution bandwagon and to make sure they can help the consumers feel at ease with this problem. And also we have seen that each time there is some dust storms or whatever, sales do skyrockets. South Koreans tend to be a lot more sensitive to air pollution concerns and do follow it quite strongly. Again, if you have any questions, please write them in. I'll answer them at the end. Let me move on to personal health. Now, this too is actually quite interesting. I have a few key takeouts, so to speak, and again, they will become a lot clearer as you look at the numbers. One interesting thing which I thought was most countries have a very positive perception of their self-health. And again, when you look at the markets, this will be at odds with what you might expect from a particular market. Again, you might be healthy, but if your standard or your benchmark is a lot higher, you might rate yourself negatively. Some markets, maybe not so. Culturally, you're a bit more easygoing, and then you tend to be a lot more positive about your health. Also, when we ask people about their future health, how do you think your health will be 10 years from now? Again, a lot more people are quite bullish. There are a few notable exceptions. I'll come to that. When we ask them specifically, what are your key health concerns? Mental health is coming as a key concern. And again, that's interesting. You know, there was just a decade back when mental health was seen as a rich country problem. Not so anymore. It's pervading, it's spreading across different markets, and it's getting a lot more salient. And in this context, Japan does stand out a lot clearly. And again, I'll show how it's different from the other markets. Okay. Again, a lot of numbers. Let me explain how to read these numbers. We asked some people in 25, 30 countries a simple question. How much do you agree or disagree that I am in good health? And the numbers over here are agree, I neither agree nor disagree, and the ones on the right, red, disagree. The world average across 25 to 30 countries is 56%. So half the people globally feel that they are in good health. Now look at these numbers across the different markets. India as high as 70%, Malaysia very high, 60%. You go down, South Korea 34%, Japan 32%. Again, does this mean that South Korea and Japan are less healthy than India and Malaysia? I don't think so. It's all about the benchmark by which you judge yourself. So if you have a bit stronger benchmark, if you are a bit more critical about the health, if you want to really be a lot more fit, maybe you will be a bit more stringent. And then these markets tend to be a lot more concerned about the health, like South Korea and Japan. In markets like India, Malaysia, even to some extent Australia, people generally feel that they are in good health. Similar question, again, Japan was a market which does stand out as the lowest. Similar kind of a topic, taking it a bit further, we asked them 10 years from now, how do you think your health will be? Do you think it will be better than it's now, same or worse? Again, globally, we had about 1 in 3, 35% who said that their health will be better. But look at the differences. India, China, Malaysia, they actually feel that 10 years from now, as they age, it actually will be healthier. I'll stop my smoking, I will eat less sugar, I will walk more. So all this intention, maybe you do believe that you'll do that, and one day your health will be a lot better. Very positive. Now, Japan is the only exception. So if you look at the Japan market, it's the only market globally. So I'm not just talking about the APAC context, only market globally, where there are more people who disagree with this statement than agree. So they do feel that 10 years from now, the health will be in a lot worse shape than it is now. And I will touch upon why this is happening or why we feel this is happening in a couple of slides. We also asked people globally, give them a range of different health concerns, 15, 20 health concerns, and we asked them to pick up these different health concerns. In your opinion, which is the one you're most concerned about, second most, third most, and so on. Cancer, obesity, mental health. Globally, across all the 25, 30 countries, these three stand out. So you can see how prominent mental health is. Cancer, yes, it's been an issue which has really been in the news for decades, and it's something which is not going to go away anytime soon. Obesity, yes, it's been in the news. People are getting a lot heavier than they used to be a generation back. But mental health, this to me was really interesting. It's globally across 25, 30 countries now, it is among the top 3 concerns, overtaking a lot of other health concerns. You can see how important that's got over time. It's not something which marketers can ignore. I want to show differences by different markets. India does stand out a bit different. When you look at India and the top 3 concerns, diabetes, cancer, heart disease. Again, those of you who are familiar with the Indian diet, very sugar heavy, very sweet, it's no surprises why these things come up here. Doesn't mean that mental health is not important. Yes, it is, but these 3 things take a lot more prominence over other issues. China, cancer, mental health, obesity. Very interesting to see obesity coming up in China. I mean, just a generation back, this would have never featured even in the top 10 list. Now it's in the top 3. Malaysia, cancer, obesity, mental health. You're beginning to see a pattern over here. South Korea, mental health, number 1. They're really stressed. Stress, number 2, then cancer. So you can see again, when it comes to some markets, it's a stressful society, and they really are concerned about mental health and stress a lot more. Japan, now they really take things to a new level. Mental health, yes, they're concerned, but then they actually are taking it a step further, and Japan is the only market globally where you see dementia coming as a top 3 concern. No other market comes remotely close. It does show, I mean, again, we're talking to people in a very broad age group. We're talking to people from the age group of 20 to 60, so it's a very broad age group. And even at this age, you see, they already start mentioning things like stress and dementia as a concern because they do understand it's an aging society. They see elderly people around them, they see the challenges they're going through, and then these things become a lot more prominent. Australia is mental health, obesity, and cancer. So these 3 other things. Again, in the interest of time, I want to focus more on Japan because it does take things to a really new level. And let's just look at a couple of charts on Japan before we move on to the next presentation. Health concerns, if you look at the Japanese health concerns, why are they different from the other 25 to 30 countries globally? I believe they are a reflection of an aging market. I mean, Japan has been an aging market. I mean, it's no, everyone knows that, but the things are, it's beginning to show in a lot of implications for how they view life, how they view different products, and so on. 20% of Japanese population is over the age of 65. That's a really high number, especially if you put that in context with other markets in Asia. Only 6% of Indians or 5% of Indonesians are over the age of 65. Then now if you start putting that things in perspective, it does become a lot clearer how really skewed the Japanese population is towards a particular age. Other countries, maybe a generation from now, will get there, especially China with the one-child policy. But then Japan, probably the way marketers treat Japan now is how it will imply for other markets in Asia down the line. Now, we have done a lot of work among Japanese in the concern towards mental health, especially in the context of aging, in the context of the frailty. And there are a couple of things about Japan. They are concerned about mental health and the decline in their mental abilities over age. Despite that, there's a strong reliance that they want to be self-reliant, strong desire to be self-reliant. They don't want to be seen handicapped. They don't want to be seen limited. And if you as a marketer are going to continually remind them that you are a senior citizen and you can't take care of yourself and let me help you, that's not going to fly. An example, so the key takeout for marketers in Japan is, if you are trying to address this whole mental health concern and their concern about a decline in their physical or mental capabilities, make sure you address them with a product which is positioned as designed for all, making everybody's life simpler and not just specifically a product for senior citizens. An example is Bridgestone launched a brand of golf clubs that was specifically designed for the senior citizens. However, they made the mistake of explicitly branding them as a golfing gear for seniors. It did not take off. A rival brand launched a similarly same product, but not mentioning the word senior citizen, that explicitly just saying gear that makes your ball travel farther, so that is an issue for the older citizens. And then this kind of resonated, this brand took off. So the same product, but how you talk, they'll connect to you in that way. Again, not something I'm touching on over here, but there's a lot of desire among senior citizens to do their own grocery shopping. Of course, even in the day of online buying and all that, they prefer to go down to the supermarket, pick their own products. And a lot of supermarkets are not geared towards making their labels, their counters age-friendly. If something on lower aisle, they are not going to bend down to pick it up. It's just not going to work. Again, I touched upon just a few key highlights. We do have detailed findings for all the 30 countries, which are mentioned over here. If you do want to get a copy of the free report, drop me an email. I'll be happy to help you out. Over to you, Andre.
Thank you, Prasad. I see lots of questions coming in, especially on specific markets. People want to know a little bit more.
Okay.
So we may try to address those in the Q&A, of course. So with that, I think there's loads of very good insights coming in. So what I wanted to do is to take a moment to tell you how market logic can help you make sense and use all of this information that you have and that you hear every day from different presentations you're in, from different reports, and from different sources of knowledge that you have. So the idea is really, how do you take this back into your organization and transform it into actual products and services for your customers? What we hear a lot from our clients is that it's becoming very difficult today to make sense of all the research, primary research, secondary research, dashboards, social media. There is so much data coming in that it's humanly impossible for a person to synthesize all of it and put it in context with all the data that you have and you have accumulated over the years. In your specific category, across categories, there is so much knowledge, and just very difficult for a single person to do that. So to that end, this is where market logic can help. We provide one single platform to have all this data in. So it can be structured data like SPSS, Excel, think about your Tableau dashboards, sales data, and unstructured data like the ones that we've just had today in the presentations from Prasad and from Nathania. So all of this knowledge is housed in the same platform. And it's a platform that's based on AI. And this AI is really connecting all the data and make sense of all the data in the context and using the same language that a marketeer or an insights person would use. So for example, the platform knows what the brand is. It knows that your brand is appealing to a specific segment of customers, and these consumers have specific needs. They go after specific channels. So the platform knows all of this, and it can take information and snippets of information coming from different reports or from structured data and really connect it and present it to you in a way that's intelligible without you having to go and read hundreds of reports or news that you may have on the same topic. So to that, I just wanted to give a couple of examples which I thought would be interesting to share today. The first one is a push function. So how do you use the platform to push information to end users? And the other one is a pull function. So how do you search for information that is onto the platform? So I'm just gonna spend a few minutes into both of those just to give you an idea of how they can work. And with that, I think we are ready to move on to the Q&A. So we have a few questions coming in. I think one I see here is for Nathania. So people are actually fascinated on how do you know that something is a trend?
Thank you. So yeah, at Trend Watching, we our unit of analysis to understand trends is innovation. So we have our analysts from all around the world scanning documents and news every day, and also our community of 1,000 trend professionals all around the world. They are our eyes and ears on the ground. And whenever we spot innovations, we ask ourselves some questions like, what are the basic needs that's being covered by this innovation? What are some drivers of change? And therefore, what are the emerging expectations that consumers, regardless of industry and market, will have by looking at these innovations? And so by looking at those innovations and analyzing them using those framework that we summarize and call trend-driven innovation, we then can have a sense of what a trend is. Because earlier I shared our definition of a trend is trend emerge when innovators address people's basic needs and wants in new ways. And so that's how we work on the back end and how we come up with trends that are made up of various innovations across industries, across markets.
That's interesting. I have actually a related question here.
Mm-hmm.
People are interested, how do you find this information in the first place? How did you find out about these NASA filters?
Oh, so like I said earlier, we have this global analysts who are reading news sources every day. And so we do that desk research, and also we verify it with our spotters network. So we'll ask them, we see this innovation in India, for example, the nasal filter. Why is it interesting? Why is it relevant for our consumer who is based in Singapore, maybe? So we rely on our spotter network to get that insights and that validation on why it makes the innovation makes it in that market.
Thanks, Nathania. I see here a question for Prasad. So what are the implications for marketeers for markets like India and Malaysia when people are positive about their current and future health?
It's very interesting because even though they may have some health issues, they think that they're happy with it, they are healthy, and they will get healthier over time. So any product which wants to use on the health angle to target to these particular markets probably needs to product them not as this is a problem and this is a solution, but hey, you have a healthy lifestyle and continue using me to maintain that lifestyle. So it has to be more in the focus of maintaining the current healthy lifestyle than a problem that you are trying to solve. One way to go about it.
I see another question related to it. 15% mention air pollution as a concern in Australia. So does it mean the Australians don't care about it?
Not quite true, because if you look at it, when we asked people the questions, we had a long list of environmental issues and say which of this is your biggest concern, the second biggest, third biggest. So there were other environmental concerns that came up more as a priority for Australia than air pollution. So there are other things that that probably bother them a lot more.
Yeah.
And again, I did mention that in my talk earlier on that we do have a specific report just on Australia in regards to environmental issues. It's available as a free download. If anyone wants a copy of that, let me know.
Okay. And I see another question from Nathania. So your presentation applies to companies that improve consumers' well-being, like FMCG or health. But I'm in the financial industry, so how does that translate for me?
That's a good question. So we get this question a lot as we engage with our clients. They're saying that, oh, your innovations are from a certain industry. How can I use it, and how can I apply it in my business? So at Trend Watching, we call this the consumers live in an expectation economy. And so because they don't live in industry silo, they're using products from different industries, then that expectations will be transferred no matter which industry you are in. Your competitors are the best in class wherever they may be. And we have actually helped clients from seemingly unconnected industry like oil and gas or cement, financial industries who want to know what their consumers will want next, and we walk them through through our different products, be it a half-day or full-day workshop that we do with them using our trend toolkit, or even our trends for 2020 events, which we're going to have actually this coming August to November in different cities. So if you're interested, just feel free to reach out to me via email. I'll be happy to answer your questions in greater detail.
That's great. And I see another question here for Prasad. So where can we get more details on issues like global warming and water pollution?
Oh, okay. So in the report on environmental issues that I talked about, so those two topics are covered, and we do have details on how do these concerns change from market to market when it comes to water pollution and what's the other topic? Air.
The other one is...
So basically all the issues that we have, water pollution and so on, those were covered in the report on environmental concerns, and we do have findings in details for them. You see my email on the screen, please drop me a note and I will share those details with you.
Great. Finally, I have a question for both of you. So do you think that the insights managers today have a tougher job because they have a lot more information to deal with than they used to have before?
There's a not short answer for that. So quite a few things. So there is a lot of information out there, but essentially there's a lot of noise out there, and we do need a means to convert that noise into information, maybe through either using identifying the trends through trend watching, or looking at a bit more holistic insights through Ipsos, or maybe putting them all together and nicely correlating them through market logic software. But I do believe that like a lot of clients who do monitor what's happening in the market, whether through information and so on, there's just a lot that you can handle. There are a lot of free reports out there. Again, it's not physically possible to really skim through all that. So we do need some sort of an automated, intelligent platform which can pull the relevant insights. So think of it as more as a Google of insights, so to speak. Something which can pull it all together and put it in a easily digestible form and in a timely fashion.
Yeah, I agree with Prasad. So we're drowning in information, and what we need is insight and wisdom. So I think moving forward, we'll be looking for synthesizers, whether it's through workshops to help the employees get together and synthesize, or whether it's to automated platform like what you guys have at Market Logic.
Yeah, just my thoughts on it. I mean, we want to make sure that you guys can leverage all the information, all the knowledge that you have. All the knowledge that you have today and everything that you have accumulated over the years can come from your primary research, secondary, from your structured data, from social media dashboards. But all of it, we just want to make sure that you have it in a single place where you can use it, learn from it, and find it fast. With that, thank you both very much for joining us today, Prasad and Nathania.
Thank you.
And thank you for attending this webinar.
Thanks.